the Niners had this rip snorter of a win over the Cowboys, and then Nick Bosa made it a campaign event. What did you think of Nick Bosa's stunt?
Well, it's interesting you call it a stunt, so that's already biased, right? Indicating you didn't like it.
Well, it
I would
wasn't
say
part of the program. It was
I would I would second that emotion. I would say 2 weeks in a row, Nick Bosa has done something disgusting. I want to remind you that he was in the auditorium when Pearsall met the media for the first time and talked all about almost dying and what it meant to him. And then when Bosa, who had been looking at his phone, came up to the podium, naturally they asked him what he thought about what Pearsall said. And he said, frankly, I wasn't paying attention. Give me a break. This guy almost died and you weren't paying attention. At least lie and
yeah.
say, I thought it was so moving. Like, what a bum. Okay, so now he comes out. Garendo had a really good game, and it meant so much. And he really was good, Iggy. He's so fast. And, he's being interviewed on national TV. It's the only game. He comes in and he sticks his head in with a Make America Great Again sign. I think it's disgusting. So let me count the ways. One, it was Garendo's moment. Purdy was there as well. And was there anyone else there?
Kittle.
Kittle. It was their moment. Um, you want to come in and congratulate your players. That's fine. But to come in and take the focus away from them, that's not nice. And that's not what a teammate does. So that's number one. Number two, he's pushing an agenda, a political agenda, because the November 5th is the election for a lot of things, but clearly for president, and it's extremely controversial. So now he's pushing for Trump. Now I want you to understand, I have no objection to people campaigning for Trump, and I have no objection to people campaigning for Harris. It's not about whom he was campaigning for, it was that he was campaigning. This is a football team. They had just won a game and they had just gone to 500. It's wrong to push that onto the team. He's wearing the team's uniform and that onto the public. And I want to be clear about some things. When Bill Walsh was the coach, and Bill Walsh had a lot of wisdom, in his opening address to the team every season, he would say, and I'm paraphrasing, we are a football team. When we're together, we do not talk about politics and we do not talk about religion. We only talk about football. If you talk about the other stuff, I'll trade you. I don't want it. And he was right. He didn't say it's okay to talk for the Democrats and against the Republicans or vice versa. None of it. And what I disliked about Kaepernick, aside from the fact that I really disliked him and thought he was a very shallow person, was that he intruded politics into that locker room every goddamn day. And I thought, this is not a football team now. And I want you to know, Iggy, remember that news conference when I said to Chip Kelly, who is a schmuck, when I said to him, why do you let him do that? Remember? Why do you let him do that? He said, we believe in free speech for all the whole team. And I thought, that's the schmuck you are, and that's why you're going to get fired, because there's not that kind of free speech in a locker room. You keep it out. Kaepernick, you want to talk about it, rent a hall. Don't do it in our uniform. Don't do it in our locker room. So I am disgusted with Bosa. In addition, I do not feel that the 49ers leadership is strong. Somebody should have taken the hat off Bosa's head. Somebody should have said, go away. Lynch was on the sideline. What was he doing? Lynch is a Hall of Famer. He's a leader on the team. He's a Stanford graduate. Get the goddamn hat off. No hat, not a Harris hat, not a MAGA hat. We don't do this here. Jed, if he had any understanding of how the world works or how that team works, should have said something. Parag should have said something. The coach was there. He should have said something. It's when I used to work at the Chronicle or at the Press Democrat, Do you think I could have walked into the newsroom and started promoting for some politician or another? I would have been in serious trouble, Iggy. It was a workplace. It was not for me to proclaim my views and to polarize that newsroom. It's the same thing on a football team. So I got to say, last year, as I understand it, you guys gave Bosa the Gary Niver Award as being the most cooperative with the press. By the way, I knew Gary Niver, and he was a lovely man, and he was a very dear friend of mine. It's an honor to win an award with his name. So he got the award. But now we know a little more about him. We know he's self-centered. He's tone deaf. He doesn't seem to give a shit about the team. He cares about his own things he cares about. And the team concerns, being a teammate, making a team seem secondary to him. I'm really down on him. If someone said to me, Lowell, we would like to invite you to have lunch with Brock Purdy, I'd say, I'll pay. If someone said to me, Lowell, we'd invite you to have lunch with Bosa, I'd say, no way. I'd rather look out the window of my bedroom. So
It's
I feel,
interesting. A couple like when you took a strong stance against Colin Kaepernick, a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, Lowell's just a conservative, this and that." Like Lowell, you just don't like the message that he's trying to convey, and you were saying, "No, it's actually the time and the place and all of that."
that's all
And
it was.
and now you're taking the same stance with Bosa, who's on the opposite end of the spectrum. And I think what's interesting is a lot of people who supported Kaepernick 10 years ago or 8 years ago are saying, well, Bosa shouldn't be allowed to express himself when they were saying freedom of speech with Kaepernick. So to me, like, this issue is interesting because it tests your consistency, because you have to have the same stance with Kaepernick and Bosa. Either you were pro Kaepernick talking about politics and you're pro free speech, or you are pro not talking about that shit at work.
Yeah. What are your
Yeah.
standards? What are your
Yeah.
ethical standards?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, if it's you're playing fair, and if you think it's for Kaepernick to do that crap, then it's okay for Bosa. But I don't think it was okay for either one.
Agreed.
My standards are quite consistent, and I want to tell you, they apply to Steve Kerr
Yep.
and to Popovich.
Yep.
And may I talk about that for a minute? I know both of them. You may not know, but Popovich used to coach as an assistant with the Warriors. I knew him very well. And at the time, he wasn't this caricature that he is now. In fact, we used to chat quietly. He's a reader, and we used to exchange titles on books that we were reading. I liked him very much. I don't like him much now. He's turned into a blowhard, and he's always mixing politics with sports and telling you, recently that Trump's a bum and all this. Fine. Do it on your own time. Don't do it at the arena. Don't do it at the practice facility. But more to the point, I want to talk about Steve Kerr. And I want to preface it by saying I know Steve Kerr well in the way a media member knows, a sports figure. I've never had a beer with him or anything like that. My impression of Steve Kerr is that he is an elite person. He has morals. He's a loyal friend. He's someone who would listen to you, who's someone who has compassion for you. I'm never going to be friends with him, but I think the people he's friends with probably think he's the greatest friend in the world. So I want to make that clear. I really, really admire Steve Kerr for who he is. Having said that, and I know it's coming from a good place, after practices sometimes, he would talk about, gun control or, whatever was on his mind. And I thought, no, this is a basketball outfit.
Yeah.
Don't bring this here. If you want, rent a hall. Don't do this. And what would happen after we would interview him and then he would go on to this stuff, I would leave. I would talk to another player. I would talk to another coach, or I would leave the building. I didn't want him to preach to me. I didn't think it was appropriate. And one other flaw in what he does, China is a horrible country. They treat minorities, the Uyghurs, in a very bad way. They have them in sort of detention camps. Well, whenever you would ask Kerr about, well, what's happening in China, he said, I don't really know about it. Well, of course he knew about it, but he didn't say anything, doesn't, because the NBA is up to his tush with China. They show the games, they get money. It's a big deal over there, their connection with China. So Steve's ethics ended at China. He very well could have said, boy, it's very bad. We need gun control here, but they need to, in China, they need to have more civil liberties. But he never said that because it was not in his interest, in his financial interest. And it troubled me. But primarily, again, he's a great guy, but I wish he didn't do on the liberal side what Bosa did on the conservative side.